I am going to try to get my screen to work. There we go. So who we are being the NRC, not humanity. We all know who humanity is. And then NRC in the ocean, and then why we're here at all, like I was saying. So I always like to start with this slide. Essentially, what we are is Canada's research and development organization, or research and technology organization. We are part of the federal family, though we are a bit removed from the core of the federal department, because our work is really about innovation. I like to put this slide up because it shows our values. And essentially, when you're working with the National Research Council, what you're working with is an organization that believes in respect, integrity, collaboration, which is why we're here. And of course, we want to be excellent in all these things, but we want to collaborate across the global innovation system. And for us, yes, innovate across the global system, but we really want to focus on innovation in Canada and how do we improve Canada's innovation index, I guess. I'm going to call it that for now. The NRC has three major business roles. The first is business innovation. So many of you are familiar with IRAP. IRAP has been around for almost 70 years, and it's one of the, if not the, in my opinion, most successful innovation program in Canada. And that's probably why it has such a legacy. It really does help our SMEs. And Canada is 98% SMEs, so really it helps Canada's industry. We look at federal mandates. So basically, we don't create policy in any way, shape, or form, but we do work with other federal departments to develop policy for them to develop policy. So this workshop today, as well as all of the work we do, actually does feed into the federal family. And I think it's important to preface that. So we are actually feeding this through an interdepartmental steering committee, which has looked at all of the work that we're doing. And so all of the information that you speak of today and what we get back from today's session is going to go up through ISED, as well as DFO. It's going to go up through Transport Canada, DRDC, and others. So essentially, it's important to know that you are being heard by more than just this group today. And then our last is advancing knowledge. So essentially, we obviously care about advancing knowledge. Some of that is like exoplanets. So we're not going to talk about that today. The statistics are down below. We have four major ways of doing business. So I'm going to start on the far right, and essentially we have science infrastructure. So that's back to exoplanets, not really what we're going to talk about today. IRAP, we've already covered a little bit of IRAP. Jeff may be covering a little bit more when he speaks, but IRAP, we all know, very solid program. Technical services, yes, we are a research and development place for hire. And so if you need research services, we have those to offer. But what I really want to talk to you about today is that first one, strategic research and development. So essentially, being part of the federal family, we do have federal mandates. Our research is aligned with federal mandates, and we do our own R&D that's not for hire. And we want to work with industry and academia and nonprofit organizations to further that research for the betterment of Canada and beyond, as we were saying with our missions. So here's the areas of expertise in science and technology that we use. The ones in green are typical for the for this sector. I say this, and I keep saying this, I need to take aerospace and automotive and surface transportation and put those green as well, because in the ocean space, if you're not getting that interface onto land and using drones, etc., that's them as well. So what does that have to do with the blue economy? And that's the important part. So the last speech from the throne had three commitments that were specific to the ocean: protect a quarter of the oceans in 5 years, and then grow the ocean economy and through fisheries and coastal communities. And that's about conservation and reconciliation, very important. And then the blue economy, investments in it to help it prosper. And that goes on to a tail end. In 2018, the federal government launched the superclusters, and the ocean supercluster started, and it shows that is one of the areas of priority for Canada. And then, I'll let you read those bullets later on in terms of who said what. We are part of the global system, and we're about to launch the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainability. I'm not going to talk too much about that. It's just important to note that there is a sustainable issue going on. There's life underwater, and today, I believe, we're going to hear an announcement about the high-level panel, but for a sustainable ocean economy. Sorry, I'm getting my words all mixed up, but essentially what you're going to hear from them has a lot to do with the blue economy, which is ocean health and ocean wealth. So creating one gives value to the other. We'll talk about that in a second. And you'll see down here that it's sustainable ocean food, sustainable ocean energy, tourism, transport, and new ocean industries, for which this group of people falls into all of them. So where does that fit from the ocean program? So NRC has said, okay, well, here we are, innovation hub, here we are, innovation unit of the federal government. We have blue economy direction from the federal place, and here we are with a program that is set to help that out. So we want to help the ocean supercluster community by increasing the amount of sustainable technologies. We also want to increase Canada's research and technology capacity on technologies that balance ocean health with ocean wealth. And again, this is squarely on this group of people, or at least not you yourselves, but I mean this sector of cross-cutting technologies is going to help all the sectors. And essentially what we'd really like to do at the end of the program's life, which is 7 years, is to really start looking at the ocean as, if we work on restoring its health, then we can make money doing it, and we can have a sustainable economy that goes on a sustainable ocean, which is not quite sustainable yet. So 7-year duration, as I just said, is this $50 million investment of the NRC. We work on cost recovery, as I was saying, except in areas of strategic research. We have between $10 and $15 million of grants and contribution money that we can provide to our collaborators to enhance the research that we're doing today. So the input that we get today is going to help inform those decisions, and it help inform where we actually commit those funds. Our capacity is down below, so you don't need to have that capacity. You just need to be able to help us with that capacity in any other way that aligns with it, and we're good to go. The program itself has 4 areas. The group here has actual input into all 4. So we have coastal resilience, which really looks at climate change adaptation, looking at resilient marine structures and the like, resilient coastal infrastructure, including ports. And we're looking at flood prediction, a big issue here, rising sea levels, etc. Intelligent marine assets is really about how do you get those human-made elements in the ocean to be more intelligent and therefore less impactful on negative consequences to the ocean and in the ocean space. And for us, the Great Lakes and Seaway is actually part of that ocean space because it is the conduit in and out of Canada. Pollution remediation, how do you take pollution out of the ocean and use it in another feedstock, as a feedstock to another industrial process? That is also back here, like how do you sense it? How do you figure out where it goes, et cetera? And then finally, bioassets, we're looking at how do you really capture value added from waste streams? How do you use algae as an alternate food source and the like? This is just a slide to really show that health and wealth are linked. And then finally, we really care about diversity and inclusion. We basically, we have an advisory committee that for the program itself, and it has gender parity with Indigenous representation. I myself am female, in case you haven't noticed. And I do fall, where I weigh heavily on my senior program advisor, and he's a visible minority. So there you go. We also, in all of the projects that we work on, we ask for a GBA analysis. We're also starting to ask for how do things balance health and wealth at the same time, and we're going to collect that data and feed it back to the federal family. We're also adopting an ethical space, and really that just means that an ethical space was developed for reconciliation of nations through the First Nations, and basically we want to take that and adapt it for a scientific audience, because those of us in S&T need to reconcile just as much as nations do when it comes to the way we view the world. So we're going to wrap that, and not only does that bring Indigenous views, but it also brings different views to the table, such as high school students, which we know from an ocean tech, getting like future kids into the, or not future kids, sorry, kids today into future jobs in the blue economy space, that maybe hearing from them would be a good idea as well. So with that, together, what can we accomplish? That is why we're here today. Back to this S&T scan. It is a pretty important scan where we're looking at publications and affiliations in key sectors in Canada to see where we stand from a research perspective and a collaboration perspective at the research level. We're looking at SMEs and some MNEs to see what their GDP contribution is across those sectors. And then we're looking at these workshops, which we've had for every sector, including the cross-cutting technologies, so that we could really understand what the barriers are to get us to where we need to go. we often hear about how, well, we don't often hear, but essentially I hear often how Canada can be more like other places in the world. And so for us, really, we're trying to say is how can the world be more like Canada? So how can we focus on the areas where Canada has strength? How can we bring our people together with one goal in mind so that we can actually get together? Like SMEs are like particles. How do we get our particles together like a wave and then wash over Canada and the world with value added from an ocean and an economic perspective, or an ocean health and economic prosperity perspective? So yours is the messiest of them all. Here is just an example of how we, and it is messy. And I'm apologizing for the messiness, and I'm going to snap back and forth between these two. But if you take a look at the snapshot of the different, fishing, aquaculture, and marine assets being boats and ships, and then marine energy, just as an example, they have their own silos. And then you have the others, marine biotech. They all have their own technical silos that need to be addressed. And how do we bring these technologies together for innovation? But every single one, and if you look on the bottom right-hand corner, requires and it is predicated, or its success is predicated on the success of these sustainable technologies, these ocean techs that don't really, ocean tech that doesn't really have a sector of its own. So anyway, we're here to figure out what can we do together as a sector that doesn't really have a sector to really improve Canada's performance when it comes to providing these supporting technologies to every sector and globally. And that's all I have to say. That's why we're here. And with that, I'm going to pass the floor to Jeff, who is going to really give us something to discuss in our breakout session. So thank you, Jeff. The floor is yours.